I've really been digging into my calling and then other people discovering their calling as well. And obviously, joy is a huge theme of this podcast. And the podcast guests this season have really shown up in that area of calling and joy. The reason you want to know Deonne, she is sharing her journey and giving you the secret sauce for how to turn life upside down in the most joyful way and discover who you are and where you want to go. So if you are in a season of life where things just don't make that much sense anymore, you are noticing that joy is depleting, I suggest that you watch this episode and see what Deonne has written, what she has lived, and then right near the end of the episode, she tells us how joy opened up a space for her to do something that she didn't even know she wanted to do. Just taking that time to gain clarity and assess what brings us joy. And once again, even though I believe it and I preach it, sometimes I just need it reiterated that joy matters. I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to Pursuing Joy, where we discuss audacious stories of joy-infused strength. Welcome, Deonne.
Oh, Julie, thank you so much. And I love that we have a very similar North Star in pursuing joy, because joy has been one of the things for me in the last year and a half, 2 years, I've cultivated. And maybe it's even worth mentioning that you and I met in a mastermind group. And one of the things that I track is on a scale of 1 to 5, how did I feel in joy and in flow that day? And that has been one of the secret. It feels like this little treasure box that as I cultivate more joy in my life, that magic shows up for me. And I didn't know that that was like a secret recipe or a secret ingredient. But you asked for me to share a little bit about myself. So just a little bit about me and my background. I left the corporate world 2 years ago after a very successful executive climbed the corporate ladder. I was at one of the largest ed tech companies in the world over leadership and development, which was a great background, or utilized my background, my PhDs in instructional design. So I definitely understand how people learn, and took that into the corporate world. Let's teach adults how to be better leaders, better managers, which is so great for a company. And you have HR background as well, I think, right? Yeah.
I do.
Because retention is, if we can help with retention, people know that they have a purpose and a path forward and their career is growing. So that was my primary role at the ed tech company I worked at, but left 2 years ago because I wanted to have larger impact for people, specifically women, in their personal life. So I've been able to take that adult learning theory. How do we set goals in a corporate environment? How do we make sure that people are on track, and take some of those same frameworks and put them into your own personal space, which is what my book is all about.
Yes.
That feels like a good place to pause and let you ask some clarifying questions.
Well, one, I'm glad that you mentioned the tracking of the joy, because when we talked, I kind of, so just a little background. My joy sign here is in the middle of my home and has been haunting me and taunting me over the last year. And I get up in the morning and I have my quiet time, and this is the first thing I see. It's in line, and I'm just like, am I experiencing this? And it has almost been a weight and a pressure. I'm preaching this. Am I experiencing this? And then when you uh, told me about tracking joy. I was like, oh my, no, it's Deonne. Deonne is the queen of joy. I just need to put it all down now and just say, okay, no, I thought I was there, and no, now there is tracking of joy. But
Yeah.
on the flip side of that, I did it.
Mhm.
And what exactly what you said happens. And that it's the miracles. It's kind of like the miracles were all around right there already. And that you put on like the joy lens, and then things that you can grab, something that was not tangible and visible, and it's there. And the first day that I tried it, I was at uh, I, I try not to go to the grocery store hungry, right? And so, not only that, taking all four of my kids there hungry, not a smart thing. But this si- simple meeting turned into a huge thing that derailed my day. And we were all at the grocery store starving, and I wanted to make dinner, and the whole I'm just joy. If I
Yeah.
focus on the joy, this experience is going to be different. But that wasn't even the point. The point was focusing on joy, and the experience just was
Mhm.
different. And so, and just by you shining a light on that practice of yours, evolve just it has revolutionized as
Mhm.
many of the other practices from our mastermind has completely been a game changer for me this year. Uh, so I wanted to tell you that.
Because we measure what matters, right?
Well, yes,
And what's it all for if we don't have joy along the journey? And I
exactly.
was feeling myself kind of slip in the just in that hustle culture of how many, what does your bank account look like? What does the scale say? What is your, all these different external things. What's it all for if we're not experiencing joy along the journey? So tracking that on a scale of 1 to 5 every day has helped keep that at the forefront of my mind.
Because it's what equals success. It when it's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
determines the success of the day, it
Yeah.
is a completely different perspective. It is the exact same day that it was going to be. The circumstances were going to be the circumstances regardless. And you get to show up differently and
Mhm.
be uh uh the day can either absorb into you or bounce off of you depending on what you want to let in and out through like the joy
Yeah.
filter. It's all the things that come across my path always tend to be simple but not easy, right? uh
That's life. That's for sure. That sums up life right there, right?
yes, yes. So let uh let's go into, well, one thing. Hold on, I wanted to ask you this because so even in our mastermind,
Mhm.
uh you when there's like uh, a negative that you could pull out or something that isn't going well or anything like that, you seem to always have a positive spin on that.
Ooh.
I have noticed, especially I have gone in the last couple of weeks feeling a little bit defeated. And some of the things you're even saying could be looked at that way, but you tend
Mhm.
to turn it. So, what's one, is that real? And
It
two,
is real. And also, I think the story, well, let me hear your number 2.
where does that come from?
I think the way I want to answer that is sharing that I've been married and divorced twice, which I know that was going to come up at some point on
Mhm.
the conversation. My first ex-husband told me that I was the most pessimistic person he knew. And so I think the power in that is that we can change. that we can show up differently. Did I fully believe that? Even as he said that, it felt very hurtful. And I also recognized that there was a certain element of truth to at least his perception of me. So I think for you to say that I show up in these calls and that I always have a positive spin, that highlights like change can be real and it can be long lasting. And the first step is awareness that there's a thing, right?
Mhm.
And that we want to show up differently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is. So I meet so many people on the other side of whatever the thing is, and
Yeah.
I cannot ever I cannot fathom that. I cannot fathom you being the most pessimistic person.
Yeah.
But I also can say I also know my journey and know who I was before. So
Mhm.
I it's so interesting always, meeting people
Yeah.
uh on the other side of their turning
Yeah.
point, you could say, right?
Because I think we meet somebody and we think, oh, your hair's always been blonde. It's always been this. Your weight's always been that. Your status, your title, your home, your like whatever the thing is, it's easy to tell ourselves a story that the other person on whoever we're talking to, right? That they haven't had the challenges or the struggles that we have had. And I think that's one of the very powerful things of women like us showing up, speaking our truth, shining the light and saying, actually, I used to weigh 80 pounds more than I do right now. And I think that's been part of our mastermind conversation. Maybe not, but Becky has mentioned that slightly.
Yeah.
Releasing that weight was a direct result of me choosing to create the life that I wanted for myself and not outsourcing my happiness by like realizing that all of those situations were actually a trigger for me to meet that need for myself. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. Yes.
I don't know where your listeners are at on this whole thing. So here's a for example that might drive this home. Uh the last relationship I was in, I wanted him to take lead of our relationship, meaning I wanted him to plan dates or to plan vacations or to exhibit that he was in it as deep as I was. But because I was coming from a place of scarcity and nervous that this relationship wasn't going to move forward, I found myself being in that role that I was going to make sure there was a date happening, make sure that there were vacations planned, because then it told me I was safe in this relationship because I knew we were working towards like the next thing. Ultimately, I wanted to marry him. Uh, and that's like a different story that probably I don't feel like I need to go into that portion of the story.
We will at some point, maybe not here.
Okay. But what I recognize is that I wanted that safety and structure and security and certainty in my life. And if he wasn't going to do it, then I was going to step into that role to create it for that relationship. Then
Yes,
through
that's funny.
therapy, I recognized that I wasn't even giving him the space to do it. At some point, it just became that this was our rules of engagement. So I stepped back from doing that and was able to channel some of that energy toward myself instead of wanting to fix him, right? Then I was working on myself, which we all know the only person you can change is yourself. Uh, and long story short, we're not in a relationship anymore, but I'm super grateful for
Mhm.
that learning experience that I had. And it feels like this might be a good segue into the joy portion too, because what I recognized, and I actually was journaling about this morning, is as I was channeling that energy into his potential or wanting him to change, when I turned that inwards towards myself, it unleashed all this creativity and magic and a deeper relationship with myself.
Okay. Yes, I can see this. So it's the one thing about podcasting and what I've learned about myself is so I guarantee you I'll be sitting with that statement for at least 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
Probably wake up in the middle of the night. thinking about it. But I'm like, okay, it's like I need to process this. I can have a pretty quick response to that, but the way that I felt that, I'm like, okay, I will have to sit with that. But that is the impact of conversations and the impact of stories, right?
Mhm.
Giving that lens, the joy lens that I didn't have before, even though I was immersed in it, right? There's just you have a different vantage point based on your experiences. And so I can totally relate for if you take that same energy and put it into yourself, then
Yeah.
it's then yeah, it's because people will hear you can only change yourself.
Yeah.
But also the actual impact or putting the energies that you are pushing in all these different directions into yourself for that change. And it's easier to try to pull. It's not easier because it doesn't work, but it feels easier to pull those puppet strings on someone else, right? Instead of yourself
Mhm.
and leading with intention. So I
And the example I shared was about a romantic relationship, but I would say this is a lesson that I've needed to learn for a long time because I can easily come up with an experience and situation where I was doing the same thing with my child. I felt like he wasn't living up to his potential, and this is actually in one of the chapters of my book. He wasn't living up to his potential. I thought he was making bad choices, and then the reality was it was actually me that wasn't living up to my potential, but it was easier to focus on him being the problem in my life than to look and use the world as a mirror and say, actually, that's about you. Mhm.
so this is the thing that I run into, kind of the can't see the forest for the trees kind of a
Mhm.
thing. So when did you recognize that in the relationship? Because I tend to be in the thing and
Mhm.
then see cannot see it in that moment. There has to be a distance for me to see into the situation. So how do you get there in a romantic relationship or with your son? To when do you see that?
And I think or in a working relationship, right? Or
Mhm.
with our parents or with our neighbor, like it's all there to essentially shine a flashlight into something that's going on within us. So with my son, it was probably like in 2014, maybe even 2013, and I was reading The Work by Byron Katie, and she has this beautiful framework that she walks people through. It's 4 easy questions. So the first is you come up with my statement was, "My son's not living up to his potential." And so then there's these 4 questions. So the first, is that true? And so, I kinda check in with myself and I was like, "Hmm, I guess I don't really know if he's living up to his potential or not." And then the second question, she repeats it again. Is it true? And the reality is he might be living up to his potential where he's at in that moment with where he's at, right? And then the third question is, who would you be without that story? And I love that question so much because if I wasn't telling myself this story that my son wasn't living up to his potential, I would be a mom full of unconditional love without any expectations for him. And that's just such a more beautiful place to live life
Mhm.
for me and for him. So that who would I be without that story? And then the fourth question, she invites you to turn it around, meaning you flip the story upside down. Either so my story was he's not living up to his potential. So if I turn it around, he is living up to his potential, which I think that was true when he was a 16-year-old sophomore in
Right.
high school. And then the other way to turn it around is maybe I'm not living up to my potential. And I'll tell you, I was doing this probably in hindsight, shouldn't have been doing it on an airplane as I was flying to California because I just started to cry and sob. Like, I realized how it was hindering my relationship with him, and I was also channeling my energy in a way to help him, right? But in reality, it was a distraction from the work that I needed to do for myself. So I would say that was the first time that that practice showed up in my life, but that framework I've used pretty consistently
Okay.
since 2013.
Okay. Yes. And I'm realizing lately too, as I've more and more putting my body into whole healing, the holistic healing process, that you, even though you can't, maybe not be able to pinpoint it when you really are in the weeds of it,
Mhm.
but you can't. Your body is telling you something whenever you're ready to listen
Yeah.
to it, right? And start asking those kinds of questions. Why am I like? What is this feeling? And going into what is true and what is not, and who you would be, what the story would be, uh,
Yeah.
like what reality would be if you weren't telling yourself that story.
Mhm.
Uh, that is an excellent question.
Mhm.
So when did you feel that your story needed to go into written form and go out, and what was the catalyst
Yeah.
to get there?
I was at an event in September of 2013, which you might be like, wow, she just pulled that month and year out of the air. But I was actually at an event with this woman who ultimately became my business coach. And so I found my book, I don't know, a year or so ago and was like, look, I still have the book that. And she was standing on stage and she was sharing her stories and her tools and strategies. And it hit me so profoundly because she'd been married and divorced twice. And I had just exited my second marriage. And I thought that is like the most, it felt like a scarlet letter A if we think about who's the author of that book? Doesn't matter. But you, you know the one I'm talking about that everybody reads in high school.
Made me just think.
Anyways, I just felt like this life has ended. I felt like the biggest failure and loser. But when I saw her rise beyond her circumstances and stand on a stage and be able to share different tools and strategies that had helped her, and it was more of a sales focus, but in that weekend, I saw the version of Deonne that you see in front of you, the 56-year-old version of me who's leading retreats, who's leading workshops, who wrote a book that wasn't stuck in hell. And this is a quote I got from her: just because you're going through hell doesn't mean you need to stop and build a house. And I
Oh,
thought, ooh, I am kind of building a house here. Like, there's a story I'm telling myself about how I'm a victim in my own life. It's taken years to accumulate different tools and strategies. And it was probably in about 2023 that I was at an ashram in the Bahamas. And even that sounds kind of bougie and fun to say, but it was a little eat, pray, love moment. And I took a book with me called The 2 Week Notice, and it really helped me map out like where's your life right now? Where do you want it to be? And what systems or structures you want to put in place between now and then? And one of her invitations is to put your exit date, because it's written for people that want to leave their corporate world. And I put January 19th, 2024, and my exit date was January 16th, 2024.
oh,
So I
wow.
used this book and I thought through what are the things that the 42-year-old version of me would have appreciated. And one of them was this book. What are the tools and strategies? And not only the tools and strategies, but also I want to hear from somebody that's been in the trenches, that has done the things. So I weave my own story in there. And then I also would have appreciated having space to do the reflection myself, whether it's, and I don't know if you've looked at my book, but like there's
Oh,
journal
yeah.
pages, and then there's some visuals on there. Here's another page that's got visuals. So it's a workbook.
Oh,
So
wow.
so there's space to do it yourself. There's my story. There's the tools and strategies, and it's written to, as I was writing it, I had 3 different friends whose faces were on the manuscript. So it's written like you would want your friend to speak to you. It's written as the higher version of me would have spoken to the version of me when I was in my 40s. Kindness, compassion, not judgment. We're all in this together. We're all doing the best we know how. And here's some really insightful questions that will help you get your life to the one that ultimately brings you joy.
Yes. Yeah. And the questions, I think sometimes some questions we don't want to ask ourselves, because then you can't unknow what
Yeah.
you know. And it's funny because when you were saying 2 years, I'm thinking, gosh, that's not too long ago. And I
No.
get it wasn't too long ago that this is the question that used to uh, just rattle me, which is so simple, but what do you want?
Yeah.
And I could not get away from it. I was reading a book that was not like it's self-help, nothing that was supposed to be super inspirational, and shouldn't have been a dangerous book. And I opened it, and the first chapter was titled, "What do you want?" And I was just like, I can't get away from this. And but then once you start saying those things,
Mhm.
dreaming and believing and
Yeah.
these things, that's harder than wallowing and victimization and
Yeah.
being able to declare the trauma that you've endured. Like, I've seen so many
Yes.
people be able to get through that conversation with just shield and resilience in it. But when you poke at the dreams and the hopes and what you want, that's when you start getting into the emotional and the tender side
Mhm.
of a
Mhm.
person, I believe. And I'm seeing more and more this like 40 to 50 age group where all this awakening is happening. Not because I think we were just doing. We were told
Yes.
to do, and we just did, and we were going and doing, and our central nervous system was all over the place, and we were fueled on adrenaline and cortisol and caffeine.
Yes.
And at some point, there was a pause, and I think that it's those things like divorces or really strong life changes that suddenly get our attention, and we can't, or a diagnosis, and you can't, well, you can't just turn your head to it, or you can't be blind to what you're seeing, and you can't stop the questions
Yes.
from coming in. So explain from tired to inspired. Explain
That
that
title.
transformation.
Well, I want to piggyback on what you were saying, which is earlier you mentioned that we have this information in our body. In my experience, like it starts there. And if you
Mhm.
don't listen, you get like a little tap on your shoulder. And if you don't listen to the tap, then it gets a little bit louder, somebody kind of shaking you or external. And I could see that in my own life for sure through my second divorce, even to this point that my house started to become cluttered and piles of papers here and piles of papers there and things that I didn't need in the house any longer. I wasn't utilizing. I mean, I sold a car but I still had the whatever the basket thing that you could put into the hitch in the back of the car. Like, why did I still have all of these things? And why was I holding on to them when somebody else could have benefited by having them in their house? But I was just feeling overwhelmed, and bit by bit, I got more and more overwhelmed until I did have a kind of come to Jesus moment where I was like, "No, let's start at least there. Let's declutter a drawer in your bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay, another drawer. Let's do your whole bathroom. Let's do your closet." And then fairly quickly I went through, I mean, 6 months, in the whole grand scheme of things, that feels fairly quickly. But I decluttered my entire house until one day I woke up and I was like, the intuition was so strong and said, and you're done. It's time to sell this house and find a different one. And it was so clearly directed that came through on a Friday morning. And I started looking at for sale by owner. And I found the house that I'm in right now, this one. And I scheduled to look at it on Saturday. Loved it. I looked at 2 houses on Saturday. Sunday, kind of sat with myself and thought, I actually think that's the right move for me. So I let her know on Monday that I wanted to make an offer, and we negotiated that. And then I thought, well, I better sell my house. So I went around and took pictures of my house, posted them on Monday, and signed contracts for both on Tuesday.
Oh my
Both
God.
for sale by owner.
Oh.
And so I share that because, and your question was how the title from tired to inspired. When we tap into our intuition and inspiration and we know what that feels like and we have the courage to take action, that again is like when the magic unleashes for me. And I think for so many others. So even the title, I knew I wanted it to be memorable, and rhyming helps make it memorable.
No.
I'd written the book, but I didn't quite have the title for it. And I was in my shower because that's where a lot of good ideas come, right? Whether we're walking or shower, like they don't usually come to me when I'm sitting in front of my computer. And I was thinking about this. There's a I can't remember the exact name of it, funnel of vibration or cone of vibration, I think it's called. And at the bottom is guilt, shame, and very low vibrational words. And at the top is peace, bliss, happiness, like, so you can imagine the whole funnel. And I thought, I don't know that I can help somebody get from guilt and shame to like peace and bliss, but I could help them get from tired to inspired, like, and whatever the number, they've actually measured the vibration. So there's a number associated with those. And I thought, ooh, that's a good title for the book, From Tired to Inspired.
Yes.
And I would say I was inspired to utilize that title. And the magic is like, I didn't work for that title. Like it feels like it was given to me. Same with the book. I don't feel like I had to work for the book. And I also had to take action. So those are different things, right? Because you can't just say, give me the book. Nobody's going to like just pour it through you. But if you've done the work and you've taken action so that you are in a position to receive inspiration and then take aligned action, it's like 2 sides of the same coin, if that makes sense.
Okay. So yes, I'm thinking right now. And now I'm thinking I may use words differently just based on what you said. Because my hiring process has everything to do with what you just said, putting people in lines of work that aren't work. And I've been trying to figure out how to actually phrase that, because you don't want to be, telling a company, I'm going to hire people that don't want to work, right? Like that's not it. And I know that joy equals productivity, and I knew that already. And then I knew that more when I started the tracking thing. And I had this experience recently where I needed to just get out of my house to get some work done. And I went to a coffee shop and had planned to be there for 2 hours, but completely lost track of time, working the entire time, but ended up being there 6 hours. And so now what you're saying, and it even more emphasized my message of, okay, when you hire somebody that finds joy in their work, they may stay over accidentally. They may give you more hours than you expect just because, and the productivity, the retention, all of it goes up. But it's not, but it is action. It was action yesterday when I was in the Biz Blitz from the mastermind. That was, it did not, but it work is this, when I hear that word, it feels more in my body of that momentum from push and stress. And it's like
Yeah.
moving through the quicksand, and you're going and you're getting there, but the effort is just so much. But
'Cause it
action,
feels like you're pushing the rock up the hill kind of thing,
yes,
right? Yeah.
yes. And I can feel it in just doing something at my computer. I can feel all of that in my body, but I think that is what I need to do the next thing. I think that is what it's supposed to be. And I've realized too, I don't think it's worth it, or and something in my mind tells me it's not worthy unless it's hard. And
Yeah.
I'm not worthy unless I'm doing hard work. And it's the exact opposite, because when you're in your flow and in your calling, then it is action. It's taking action. So I'm going to have to think about that word a little bit, because I've been trying to figure out what the word is in place of work, and it is exactly that. It is taking the action. Uh, mm,
And I love that we both bring this HR perspective to this conversation because as you were talking, I think it's important for hiring managers, especially, to realize the thing that lights you up is not necessarily what's going to light up
oh yes.
people that are working for you or on your team. And I would even argue it shouldn't be. So one thing that would light me up as a manager and leader was to have one-on-one conversations. Other managers found that so draining, but I loved infusing into these people that were working for me, knowing about their families, knowing that I had a lot of tools and strategies that could help them at work and with their families. And so our conversations were very organic and authentic
Hmm.
and more encompassing just than here's your job that you need to be doing. I had some people that were super like wizards at automation, other people that were fantastic at designing, other people that were really good at structures, other people that were good at project management, and hiring for diversity, especially in skill set for a large team, made our whole team stronger. And you
Yes.
shouldn't hire people, um, that idea of hire people that are smarter than you and own your own strength and know that if other people have these different strengths that are complementary to yours, as a team, you're going to expand in ways that, like, I just look at the work that was done over the time that I was there, and I'm so darn proud of that team and the organization.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And those are the organizations that understand that are the organizations I want to work with. And I'm starting to understand more and more who doesn't really need my services because they don't believe in it, and they just want the administrative piece of recruiting taken off of them.
Mhm.
And as I started my business, I've been like, oh yeah, I'll take, here's my clients, yay, another one, and now, okay, I can get the clients. Now, who do I want to work with,
Yes.
and who actually wants to work with me as far as what I am offering? Uh, and that's just something that I've kind of learned along the way too in my entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
You were so hungry, right here at the beginning, and then once you get into the abundance mindset, then you
Yeah.
realize there are options, and you want to work for the people that believe in what you are doing, not just
Yeah. Where there's alignment, right, between you
right.
and them.
Yes,
For
exactly.
people that are listening, I'd encourage you to get a little post-it, and this is something that's on my monitor right now. Some will, some won't. So what? Who's next? And so I think about that for where you're at right now, Julie, right? Some will, some won't. So what? Who's next? Because it really encourages that abundance mindset and trusting that the aligned clients are going to show up for you.
That post it just made me think of just jarred my memory on the activity that you did over the winter solstice. Can
Oh,
you
yeah.
can you explain that?
Yes, I loved this. It was out on I'm not on TikTok, but I'm sure it was on TikTok. I probably saw it on some sort of reel, whether that was Facebook or Instagram. And the invitation was to get 12 pieces of paper, and on each piece of paper, you would write one thing that you wanted to have happen in 2026. So for me, it was something around, some business goals, revenue goals, my book launch, relationship, some vacations, that type of thing. And then you would fold each piece of paper up so that you couldn't tell what each one was, right? So you're folding with the words inside and then folding them the same way. And beginning on December 21st, your invitation was to burn one of those. And I chose to do it without looking at them. But so I would burn one and I would be like, that one's not my job. That's the universe, God. Somebody else is going to manage that from a manifesting point of view. And then you would do that every night until January 1st, where there was one that remained. And so for me, it was around visibility. Hello, look at me being visible, having this conversation with you,
Right.
Julie. But I love that that is the only thing that is my responsibility. Not, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to do the other things, but the commitment to myself that I'm going to be visible has helped me take the leap of faith to reach out to people to be on their podcast. I was the keynote speaker for International Women's Day. I had a book signing launch in LA last weekend. Like I'm choosing to be visible. I'm choosing to put myself out there. And then I'm trusting that the rest is going to happen because I'm honoring what I told God, what I told the universe I would do.
Yes. So,
Mhm.
what? How has your community changed
Ooh,
as
I like
you
that
have
question.
changed?
I would say it's gotten smaller, which was a surprise to me, uh, but also much more aligned and supportive. Because I hear that, like, I don't feel like I have very many naysayers in my world. I feel like I'm surrounded by other humans that are on this same path and journey of wanting to create a better world for themselves and for others. And so that's become narrower and more connected and more aligned with the energy that I want in my life.
Okay. So yeah, I'm on that on a similar journey. And so that's
Mhm.
what made me and I would want anybody to consider that as well because
Yeah.
as you move forward, and I'm a big believer that there are lifetime people, seasonal people, and people for the moment as
Yeah.
well. And as you
Yes.
change, your community will change because you'll be attracting and repelling uh,
Mhm.
certain people along the way. Uh, so let's get into a little bit about why you felt that what you felt what stigma did you put around yourself as far as two divorces, because that is the one thing that when I was talking to you that and it wasn't anything like, oh man, two divorces, such a bummer. You weren't giving off that type of energy, but I'm a pattern person, and when we had the
Yes.
conversation, I when you brought it up the third time in the
Mhm.
conversation, I was like, oh, this is something that this was an overcoming thing from tired to inspired. The things that all the
Yeah.
stuff that you're telling me that's going on now, there was a moment that you just thought, I'm two divorces. That's who I am.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about what that felt like and going and coming into your own wholeness of that's not who I am.
Yeah. It's definitely part of my story in the sense that that's my past for sure, right? Like if you look at my little resume, I wouldn't have thought at 16
Oh,
that I
yes.
would be married and divorced twice, PhD, 4 kids, 2 different dads. Like, probably all of that is not something that I thought would have been on my life resume, yet here I am. And that second divorce really was for me the kind of a radical awakening, if you will. I mean, we talked about how there's messages within your body.
Uh-huh.
I knew that in hindsight, I knew that I needed to wake up to the life that I was designed to create, which is the one I'm living now. And I wasn't living in alignment with my core values. I don't even think I had language to understand that that was a conversation or an exercise. What are my core values? Am I living aligned with them? Like, I'm just I'm just a hamster in the wheel. I'm just making sure that there's food on the table and that I'm keeping
Mhm.
these little kids alive. And I certainly have grace and compassion for that version of myself that was just stuck and yeah, didn't know how to move out of that. And I recognized that the only common denominator in my life was me. And so if I wanted things to be different, then I needed to make different choices. And part of that was investigating. You talked about patterns, investigating what are some common themes that are happening in my life? What core needs am I trying to meet? And how can I meet those needs in a healthier way? And some of my coping strategies have served me very well. When I'm in a place of like, I don't really know what to do, I often go to school, whether that's yoga certification or women leadership courses
Yeah.
or PhD program. So I don't regret any of those choices. They've all led me to be who I am today. I didn't even know it was a journey to learn to love yourself. So I don't know if I answered your question. I feel like I just kind of rambled for a minute.
No, no, no. That I think, I mean, I understand a lot of what you're saying. There's so much. I didn't know this either. This is a vocabulary around these experiences.
Mhm.
And so sometimes, like when I was in a 12-step program with in recovery, and there's a way, like if I go out on the street, I can have a oh, you've been through recovery. Like there's these
Yeah.
themes that even scarcity and abundance, that wasn't a part of my vocabulary.
Mhm.
So somehow some of in fact, I don't know, maybe I'll do that with this episode. Maybe I'll put together a little vocabulary list, because core values, some people are not even aware that they should care or even
Right.
know what those are for them. And so there's different things. So that you made complete sense, but now I'm like, that maybe there needs that whole term glossary. We
Yeah.
may need that with some of this.
And I'm happy to share this with you for your listeners. Like I have in my book, I've got a list of core values, and then
Oh,
there's an activity, which is my time, energy, and calendar, does it reflect my core values? So, for instance, for me, adventure is a core value. I thrive when I know there's a thing happening, and that doesn't have to be a trip to Peru. It
right,
could be try a new recipe or put yourself on a dating app. Like it doesn't really matter. But if I say that adventure is important to me, then my money should be going towards adventure, not all of it, but a certain amount, right? My calendar should show that I'm spending time on an adventure, and there should be some amount of attention that's going there.
right.
Yep.
Yes, that is so true. So when do you think in your process, in your journey, when did you start when were you feeling that you were fueled by fear, and when did you start uh aligning with what was in front of you, the miracles around you, and operating in love is what I would say.
Yeah, I think the world does a really good job at putting on the golden handcuffs in one way or another, like telling stories that I think about my own corporate experience, and that's why I call them the golden handcuffs, because the higher I climbed up that corporate ladder, the more stock options I had, but then you had to wait to have them vest over a year or 3 or 5. And at some point, I just recognized they are going to get bigger and heavier, and I'm going to have more money at risk. So if you have another chapter in your life and you want to write it the way that you want to write it, the time to jump is now. Because if I waited another 5 or 10 years, it felt like I wouldn't have the runway to create this next chapter of my life the way that I wanted it to. And not that it would have been done, but I was, 53, and I thought I could see myself working till I'm 65, maybe even 70, in a contributing kind of way. So if I want that to happen, I don't want to wait till I'm 63 and can retire with more money in the account. So your question about love and not being fear, I that one's also interesting because it's not this light switch moment that turns.
Mm-hmm.
It's a muscle that we're gradually developing, and I think it happens step by step, increment by increment. And I think the first time that I experienced that in a big way was when I was 22 and I graduated from college and I wanted an adventure. And so I bought a one-way ticket to Hawaii. And I thought, I will figure it out. I'll get a job, I'll get a place to live. And I had enough money for a return ticket that I thought if it doesn't work out, then it will just be an extended vacation. And I ended up being there for 2.5 years. And that really taught me the power of getting out of your comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
trust, surrender, listen to intuition. And since then, it's been a gradual process. And it hasn't been linear, it's not like every day I get better. It's like, oh, I was doing really good. And then I dropped, and then a little bit up and there. And right, it's this ebb and flow of life. And I would say there were years of my life that I wasn't tapped into that, like probably in I don't know, it doesn't really matter the number, probably my 40s, but that invitation to come back and learn to strengthen that intuition has been one of the most powerful things that I've done for myself.
Yes. I feel like I feel younger now than I did in my 20s and 30s. Uh, I think it's that difference between the work and the action. I just feel so much better in my
Yeah.
skin.
Yeah.
Being out of that false sense of security, because the
Mhm.
money, the job, all of those are in somebody else's hands. The real
Yeah.
security is in you.
Yes.
And as a single mom of 4 children, I was like, y'all, that's crazy talk.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just crazy. But it is the truth. Any other, I can get the rug ripped out from under me by all kinds of people if I'm handing them over the keys, to my life. And
Mhm.
that is no longer the case. And I feel like when you get to this space, and I mean, not everybody wants to be visible, right? But
Right. Not
I,
everybody wants to be an entrepreneur.
right.
And
But what,
also, it's fine. Like everybody gets to choose their own journey, right?
yes. And that's the permission I want to give people.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's exactly that. Not my journey. And I think your book
Hmm.
is the same. Like, what gives you permission to be a human? What gives you entitlement to what you desire? What
Yeah.
it's not a formula to become Deonne or to become this kind of woman or get over this. It's the recipe for whatever you want to make. It's
Hmm.
exactly that. And
Hmm.
I think too, because I'm going through a book, right? I have a book club right now, and I already told you I want to do a book club on your book, because if anything, this mastermind that we're in together has taught me
Yeah.
you you want to do it together. It's not
Yes.
it's it's a journey that requires others, I think, wherever they are in their own journey. But just that camaraderie and that energy, I think, is a great way to go through, just not in a silo of your development, but
Yeah.
linking arms with others. So,
And I can't remember if I've offered this before, but I'm happy to come and talk to your book club because sometimes it's fun to meet the person behind the words.
oh
And
yes.
so I'll share that with your listeners as well. There's a form on my website, drdeonne.com, that if you want me to come and speak to your book club, if my book is selected as your book of the month or
Oh,
whatever, I'm happy to do that.
yes, I would love that. And I'd love to take a group out to Utah. That
Yeah.
I would love to go through the book and climb a mountain. That would be a great ending.
Yeah.
Okay, what is currently bringing you joy? What are you tracking, I guess, right now? What is a successful day for you?
Well, and I love that you brought up joy again because there's been one thing that I've wanted to share on this joy journey, two specific examples of when I've cultivated joy and what's come about as a result. So let me start there and then I'll
Uh-huh.
talk about like what the day to day looks like. So it was a year and a half ago that I took kind of a crazy trip. I was in Dubai for 3 or 4 days, and then I was leading a humanitarian trip in Nepal. And then I was in Paris on a layover for like 4 days on my way back.
Oh
I
my
know.
goodness.
Imagine what packing was like. Some stuff for hot weather, some stuff for cold weather, some stuff to dig trenches, some stuff to look good at the Louvre. Anyways, uh, but what was interesting for me about that was really, I mean, I was by myself for all of those. I was leading a trip, but I didn't know anybody on that in Nepal. And I certainly didn't know anybody when I was my days in Dubai or Paris. And when I came out of my hotel from Dubai, there was a giant statue of an elephant that was probably like 10 feet wide and maybe 15 feet tall. And I was like, ooh, that's beautiful. And I took a picture. Then when I was in Nepal, oh, how perfect is this? My friend Buddy gave me this cute little coffee mug for my 55th birthday. Um, and I bought a scarf for my daughter-in-law, had elephants on it. I bought a little carved box for my granddaughter, and that one was intentional, having 3 elephants on it to represent her mom and dad and her. And I still am like not observant enough to notice all these elephants until I was in Paris. And in Paris, I went into a vintage clothing store and tried on a really cool kind of wool trench coat kind of thing. And I put my hand in the pocket and I pulled out a coin that had an elephant on it. And I was like, okay, hold, what is happening? And then I had like this, like almost like a little mental movie that I was like, oh, elephant, 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 elephant. What? And then I came home the next day, or I came home a few days later and started writing a children's book. And I knew the elephant would be the main character because they're gender neutral, they span all the continents, and that book is going to launch probably like I'm at the final stages of like the launch program, but that should be launching within the next couple of months. And how did that book come to be? Directly as a result of cultivating joy in my life.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Now, fast forward 7 months later, 8 months later, I sat at the piano and I just felt like I just needed more joy in my life. And I played for probably close to 3 hours straight. And I'm an empty, or not empty nester, but my kids are all at school. So like 3 hours in the middle of the day felt very indulgent, if I'm honest. I should be in the hustle
Oh,
culture. I
yeah.
should be working. I should be doing, 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 doing. But whatever, my soul was just like, you need to have joy, play the piano. And as I stood up from the piano, that's when the outline showed up in my brain that I should have a story of me in each of the chapters. Here's the 12 different frameworks, and kind of had like big 3x4 post-it and then little individual post-its that color coded. Here's my story. Here's the framework. Here's the exercise. Here's the reflective questions, and kind of move them around. And here's the linear fashion that it should flow through. All of that as a result of cultivating joy. Like, I can't emphasize enough that when we cultivate joy, and that's actually in my book too, like to create a joy list. What are the things that even light you up? And as I look at my joy list, it is not, I mean, travel's on there for sure, but sometimes it's opening the sunroof and singing to Diana Krall with a seat warmer on. Like, it doesn't have to be this really big,
Right.
expensive, time intensive thing. It doesn't have to be sitting at the piano playing for 3 hours. Maybe it's doing a 20-minute yoga practice, or maybe it's sending 3 text messages out to 3 friends that have changed your life for the better. Like, there's so many ways that we can cultivate joy and gratitude in our lives. And that is the secret sauce. Like, if there's any message that I want people to
Yeah.
take from today's conversation, it's that. To
Yes.
find what lights you up and trust that the rest is going to work out.
Yes. And you made a lot of that, I think, has to do with embracing beauty too. And you made me just think, because I have felt a little bit of a spiritual block this week. As there's a message trying to get to me that I'm not able to receive. But I think it's because I'm working for it. And so I think this weekend I'll have to I can't play the piano, but there's something I need to do creatively, to kind of let down some of these barriers, I think. So that I received that. Hopefully a lot of others are able to receive that too. And another thing I'm trying to have my children understand this before their 40s. That is my hope. And I'm whether they are timing, I believe in all of that. But I want them to have the tools when they're ready to receive. And we worked on a dreams list. And because I'm working with a dream manager right now, and I had to write down 100 dreams. So I had my girls write down 25 dreams. And I was not, I was expecting to get them to know them better, just like I got to know myself better in writing that down. But there was so much overlap. And one of it was, almost all of us want to write a book. And I was like, well, then let's do it. Like, we're all together. So we were already working on themes for a children's book as well. But I'm going to encourage them now to just be open to kind of how you received what you were going to write about. Like, we're thinking, but let's just look around us, and let's see what patterns show up for us, for the theme of what we want to put out there. So
Because
thank
it
you.
is that paradox, right, of the hustle culture, but the heart-led business. And like, knowing that we still need to take action, but what is the right action? And
Right. Yes. And not
a balance.
forcing any of it. I didn't know we were going to write a book. I didn't know I really thought I knew that's what I wanted to do. I never told my children that that's what they need to do. So it, it's such an amazing time to be alive. We can jump in the other way and say it. There's so much crap going on out there. I know that. I'm not Pollyanna about that, but another thing I'm focusing on with them is our sphere of influence. Like, we can carry the weight of the whole world if we choose to, but we have what's right here in front of us. Let's do our best with that, while we can and where we are. So I am so glad to be around so many amazing women, and I am so glad that we were able to meet, and that you are using your journey to inspire others to just take whatever their, whatever their leap is,
Yeah.
their leap of faith in this season of life. So I know you were about to get to experience the biz bliss that I got to
Yes.
experience yesterday. So I don't want to hold you back from that, and I'll be on there the last hour as well. So I'll see you again soon. Is there anything else that you? Well, let me also get you how to get in touch with you, what your website is, and how to get your book as well.
Yep. I will share the podcast, or in the podcast notes, I assume you'll share my URL, which is drdeonne.com. So people can work with me by attending workshops, retreats, private coaching. All of those options are available. And then I'll also share with you the Amazon link so that you can purchase the book directly.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Julie.
When's the last time you were working and completely lost track of time? Recently, this happened to me at a coffee shop. I was planning to work for a couple of hours, and 6 hours later, I realized I was still there. Not because I had to be, but because I was working in my working genius. What if more people got to work that way? That's the idea behind Enjoy Workforce Solutions. Recruiting built around how people are wired to work, so the right role energizes them, and your team feels the difference. Discover what that could look like for your organization. Visit Enjoy Workforce Solutions.